Hello everybody, my name is SQUAGGY and welcome back to another set review. I know this one is a little bit late. The set has been out for roughly a week, a little bit less as of recording this, so not exactly on time as I usually am, I think. But I still wanted to get this out there, and being out a little later does mean that we have a couple of tournament reports coming in, so we do have some data that we can use to contextualize the ratings that I give. To be clear, I gave a lot of these ratings before the results have started coming out, but I can, add some context as we go along, because, we have more data points. This video is going to go over DZ-BT14, which is Envoys of the Crimson Moon, basically the second set for the Paralactic Clash anime. So, as we rate the cards, and as is tradition for this series of videos, I change the system basically every video. This is not because I don't believe in the previous systems at all, but I do think that I can give you more holistic, more robust reviews if I keep kind of refining my rating system. So, here's how it's going to go. Not only do we have how individual cards are going to be rated, which you can see here. Basically at 4 stars, which is the max, it's powerful in the context of the metagame, or it improves a deck's game plan a lot. At 3, it's pretty good in the context of the meta, or it improves a deck's game plan like a little bit. At 2 stars, it probably won't be played in very high quantities, it's like okay, and it doesn't improve the deck a lot. And finally at 1 star, it's just a bad card. And obviously, if your card is higher rated, I'm going to be a bit more, stringent with giving you stars, because I think your strengths and flaws, they're going to be more pronounced if you're paying more money for the triple rares, for example. I also wanted to do a rating for the decks overall, and I wanted to give each deck 2 ratings. One is how they fit into the competitive landscape. I think some people do watch me for competitive content for some reason, and if you do, thank you very much. What I want to do for you is that I want to show you whether or not I think this deck will be very good in the format. So at 4 stars, it's a meta-defining deck. At 3 stars, it'll be a part of the metagame, and at 2 stars, it's like a rogue pick, something you just play for fun. And at 1 star, it's probably more like a locals deck, a for fun deck, and something you don't want to anticipate getting very far with. But I also know a lot of you don't watch me for competitive content, and you want to see some fun stuff. In which case, I also gave each deck a kind of for fun rating, or like a satisfaction rating, in that there is also a rating for how much fun I think you'll have when you play the deck. Fun isn't really an objective metric by any means, but at the very least I want to, kind of either advertise or dissuade you from picking up a deck that you may be on the fence about. Some decks got a lot more satisfying with their new cards, and some decks, didn't change a lot. So we'll go over everything as much as we can, okay? But first things first, let's go over common slop. These common generics, 1 star. They're from the last set. Basically, you Energy Blast 5 to give it 10,000 power on swing, but the Energy Blast is reduced per damage point you've taken. This is obviously bad. A lot of cards already gain 10,000 power as is. Not much reason to play this. 1 star. These common generics as well, if I believe your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, when they attack, if you've played an order this turn, you can Soul Blast 1 and it gains 10,000 power. All 1 star. All not very good. Having a 20k Soul Blast 1 attacker is kind of okay, but having another condition on top of that makes it really tough to sell. Just don't really play these if you're, like in a Phantom deck and you want to do something with your soul with the, order plate that turn. Play one of the T-Fault clones instead. Don't play these. These are bad. But they're obviously bad, they're common slop. Okay, so let's start first things first with one of the more hyped decks of the set. One of the first decks revealed in the anime for this, Youthberk Phantom. First things first, we'll go over the right line. 4 stars on Desolation of Loneliness Youth. I really like his art. I think he's cool. And also, you are going to need him for the grade 1. Will of Destruction Youth. 4 stars again. When placed by riding, you can top 7. And top 7 is a pretty good search. Up to 1, either Youthberk or the Crimson Moon. That's pretty good. I do like him. I think he's good because he's free and he's quite fast. My issue with him, even though I've given him 4 stars, is that you could probably have just searched your whole deck for one or the other. I don't think that breaks Berk by any means. Just something to keep in mind. You could whiff on this theoretically, but it's still quite strong. And it's quite fast. Crimson Wrath Dragon Slayer Youth. 3 stars. It doesn't dig any further into your deck, but it does recool usually like your ride cost or something, or maybe you mill an important piece with some of the mill cards that this deck has, and that can be very advantageous, okay? So 3 stars. I wish this did something in the form of like digging you into your deck maybe, but it's fine. Youthberk Drag Force Arms Phantom is a 3-star card. This card actually does a fair bit. You know, it has some mill to gain power, it has board building kind of like how the original Youthberk does, and it can search out, you know, your revel forms, drag forms I guess, which is good. Now, you actually don't need a lot of dragons in your drop zone to benefit from the second skill, which is the one that gives itself power per dragon in your drop zone. Think of it as you need to hit magic numbers, right? And in that sense, if you go first, you just need 2 dragons in your drop zone to create a magic number with no booster, hitting 15k. And going second, you need 5, which, you know, that'll happen pretty naturally as you guard stuff with triggers. And by turn 4, once you've guarded and milled a ton, I don't really think you can be very far off like 10 dragons in your drop zone, especially if you're playing dragon triggers, and you've built your deck around this. So your center line is going to be very powerful. Now, that's not to say I think this card is very bad. 3 stars is a good rating. I just can't help but compare it to Youthberk Rebuild, which can ride from the drop zone. And that gets a lot of the bloat out of your hand and your deck, which in such an aggressive deck like Youthberk, being able to discard those jank pieces like your revel forms is good, rather than discarding like real cards from your hand. Obviously you can benefit from some of the Dragon Empire cards that are okay being discarded like Bel-Fiore and Gojo, but it's still not like the best feeling in the world. It's definitely not bad, and it's currently kind of gatecapped by the fact there's only 1 drag dress, but as the game progresses, I imagine this will get a little bit better. The 1 drag dress you have, though, is not very bad at all. Dynast is a 4-star card. Unlike Exist, this is a 4-attack deck, locked until, you know, turn 3, unlike Exist, which can make a 5-attack deck because you can restand one of your rearguards with your real form. The payoff, however, is that your center lines are very strong, and your sidelines are also really big. This means once your opponent enters danger zones like 4 or 5 damage, that's when this deck is going to get really scary, especially because you're not swinging side first, so there isn't really a safe point of damage to take from first swing to second swing. They're both very risky points to take. So at like 4 damage, you are probably going to win the game. I mean, ideally you do. Now, what's pretty interesting about this deck is that the Phantom skill is here on the Drag Dress rather than the original Drag Force. This means that basically as, you know, they print more support for Youthberk Phantom, and I hope they do, you will get different Phantom skills, theoretically anyways. And the one you have right now is quite good. Being able to retire 1 and then retire 2 the next turn, so you can like burn a lot of boards, which does matter this format, I think. I know decks like Overlord kind of struggle with rebuilding the board without paying some decent cost with stuff like Jaren. So this does matter, and they might be on very low cards because they've spent a lot of their cards guarding your huge sides and huge centers. So I think very highly of that skill. I think that this deck is quite fast because of Dynast, and I think that, you know, you play this because Dynast is incredibly cool. 4-star card, really like it. Hope to see more interesting drag forms as the game progresses, but for now, this will suffice. Obliterate Dragon, 3 stars. It is a little hefty of a cost to call it back. It's not like the easiest thing to call back, but you can just Soul Blast 2 of your Youthberk right lines and you get him back. And what I really like about him is that he also has like a search ability. He's not just a big Chungus beater, so it kind of so it does help out with all the jank in your deck. You really want to find obviously your Berks, your Persona rights. This is very important to your deck, so this helps with that, and there is compensation in case you miss. That being said, I think you play too much of this card is a bit excessive. You can't really leverage multiple of him in a turn because the Soul Blast cost is quite heavy, and thus you don't want to run in very high quantities, but this deck has a lot of ways to mill cards anyways, so you can likely get one out for later stages of the game. It's fine, you probably shouldn't run 4, but he's decent. I would recommend using him 3 stars. Forlorn Hope Dragon, 2 stars. He's fine. I don't think he's so bad. He's a decently big beater, and he can go 1 for 1 with his own skill and then fuel your Youthberk, but man, he's just kind of slow, and there's just nothing really too offensive about him otherwise, but there are better dragons you can be running in, you know, Dragon Empire. There are a lot of very powerful cards in Dragon Empire that this is fighting for space. So 2 stars. Vanishing Claw Dragon. The core idea of this card is you can discard it for like Berk's skill, and then you can get him back. For discard ride on turn 3, it technically works, though it is outclassed by stuff like Bel-Fiore and Gojo, even though this is a little cheaper. So yeah, it's outclassed, it's slow, and to get its benefit, you need to draw into it by turn 3, and so you can't run like 2 or 1 and just hope to hit it. Soul Blast cost is fighting with Obliterate, so the opportunity cost is very high. I don't think you can make space in the deck for it, and you need a lot of deck space to play this card, because you can't just run 2 and hope you draw into it. If you want to see the benefit, you gotta run a fair bit. So it needs a lot of deck space, and it's not worth it. 1 star. Vandalism Dragon, 1 star. This this card is bad. I mean, it doesn't really break a lot of thresholds to be counted as 2, and other than that, it's a 15-10. I don't think this breaks anything in Youthberk. I don't think 1k extra power matters too much. Honestly, if you want to play for cheap, I'd rather you run Vanishing Claw. So yeah, 1 star. True Scythe Dragon. I don't really get this one. It doesn't really give you an immediate advantage. Going to the soul is whatever in this deck. And while the power is kind of nice, that is a bit excessive in this deck, where your centerline power is already very high. I'd rather you run Vanishing Claw Dragon if you really had to. Now we can look at this generic. This is a card that is meant for just Phantoms. And the only 2 Dragon Empire Phantoms right now, as of recording, are Youthberk and, Alphard. So that's kind of the context you need to look at this card in. This card is fine on paper. It's free up to 2 mils and it's online pretty early. It gets value on board because it can intercept quite fast. You know, it intercepts basically by turn 3. But it is stuck in 2 decks which I don't think are particularly strong. So even though the cards are pretty good and this card is free, I don't think it changes the math on either deck being metagame relevant or not. So 2 stars. Okay, so that's Youthberk Phantom. I think that on the level of competitive viability, this is a 2-star deck. I don't think it's very bad, I don't think it's unplayably garbage, I just think it's not very good. At least when you're playing against stuff like Alphard and Yakuza cards, which I'm not covering, just because I don't like covering the collabs in these videos. But I think that this deck has a lot of power, and that's about it. The threat level is kind of low if you're not hitting crits. Your hand is pretty fragile as far as I can tell. Again, you're playing a deck with a ton of like janky pieces, like all the drag forms, and then you have to play Crimson Moons. It's a lot of weird stuff in the deck that I don't think there's a lot of benefit playing this over something else that is equally aggressive if you wanted to win. I think it's fine. I think I've seen 1 championship tournament, some championship where this deck did go all the way, but for the most part in official settings, in something like an Ultimate Cup, this deck hasn't really done much, not even in trios. So maybe it gets better as time goes on and they get more and more drag forms, but for now it's okay, but I wouldn't, you know, sell my house for it. And in terms of flavor and fun, if you like Youthberk, you'll like this deck. I think he looks real cool. I think he kind of sells that aggressive Unga Bunga power fantasy very high. It's very exhilarating, obviously, to have such a huge center line twice in a row. So I do think it's a very fun deck if you're looking for that. But if you are looking to win every tournament event, you know, maybe look for something else. Okay, now let's look at Varga. Varga got some decent buffs this set, and I think they will make him a lot better. I mean, I thought they would make him a lot better. As we can see from tournament results, it's kind of iffy. So let's go over this. Vivage of Unparalleled Zalva Dragnia, 4-star card. This card is insane. So obviously searching Varga is good, it raises your floor a fair bit, in terms of the fact that you can replicate hitting your Rakshasa turns more and more in larger tournaments, but I think the rest of the skills are very strong as well. Being able to boost, being a 15k booster, if you have 2 of him in 1 column, and you can have that because it's about different rows for him to have the power skill and the boost skill, then you have a 50k line on his own basically on Persona right turn, and I just think that is really strong. You can obviously put him behind the Vanguard as well. This raises Rakshasa ceiling, which could matter, and obviously the fact that it can get 2 crit is just incredible. Really helps Varga finish, really helps Varga find its pieces. 4-star card, it's really good. And it's super useful in stuff like the danger zones, like 4 damage, and it can play through stuff like bad variants with like 6 heals and stuff, or OTs on 5. Powerful stuff, really like this. Parching Axe Dragon, 1-star. This card only works when it hits after boosting, and you can't even search Varga, you must only search the Mythage, which is really weird. And then it goes to Soul. Don't play this card, do not play this card. It's fighting for so many things in Varga, not good. So where do I put Varga here? So when I did my ratings of this, you know, before the set came out, I thought this would raise Varga a ton. As it turns out, not really. It's still a much better deck than it was before, but the format is just quite different from what it used to be when I thought Varga was even better. Like stuff like Vergilla and Toys were like the top dogs. And now Vergilla's really gone, and having your best matchups for your retire skill gone is kind of iffy for Varga's position. A lot of decks are really fast and can abuse him before he gets a chance to really pop off. And though I still think there is some potential in him, it's hard to deny the fact that the results right now just don't show it. On the other hand, I played this deck a couple times for testing and it was very fun. This deck is incredibly fun always. I know people always have the criticism that this deck needs to check critical triggers to win. I don't necessarily think that's always true. I think now Zalvaiyue kind of pushed the needle a bit on how many crits you have to check in a turn. But yeah, I may have oversold this deck originally. I still think it's fine, but you know, the results may differ with my opinion. And I think it's very fun. So highly recommend if you're looking for something fun. Okay, let's talk about Alphard. So I was really optimistic about Alphard last video. Some people were pretty critical about how I evaluated some stuff in that video. I was very quick to respond to some of those. But the one I definitely missed out and the one nobody really defended was Alphard. I put him at like 3 stars last video and he was very clearly not. I was just very hopeful. This time, it's not much better. Outburst Dragon, 2 stars. It's fine. You can add some consistency. It's CB1 and your compensation is Soul Charge 2, that's not great. When you boost, only if you Phantom skill this turn does he gain the power, and Alphard tends to Phantom skill once. So, I don't know, I think the first skill is fine. Nothing crazy though, I mean Alphard doesn't have shit, just play him, you know, you have to run him, you got nothing else. But I am pretty disappointed in this card, 2 stars. Chandrul Dragon, 1 star. I think EB is a lot more stringent of a cost in Alphard, and it's also worse than Gamma Rays. So unless you're on some really weird, super heavy Counterblast build and you can't afford it for your Restander, and you don't need the draw that Gamma Rays provides, and I don't know why I'm going over this. You know this card is worse than Gamma Rays. So if for some reason Gamma Rays is a lot of money, here you go. This is a much cheaper version, but it's not as good. You really want to EB3 on like, what is it? Perseverance Dragon? I don't know what he's called. The grade 3 guy that comes back. You want to use your energy there. So 1 star. Okay, Alphard, overall, 1 star. I think this deck is a lot worse than my initial evaluation, and the records tournament-wise from both last set and this set have kind of proved that it just doesn't really have the teeth for the format. As of writing, this deck has like a top, and I don't think those 2 cards are going to change the needle on it. It's not worse than it was before, because I think it's hard to make it worse, but it's not much better either. If you like Alphard, Outburst may be fine, but I don't think you're really jumping for joy when you open him in your starting 5. But the deck is still fun. If you like the one-hit kill style of play, go ahead. I think you'll enjoy Alphard, but I wouldn't expect to win a lot of games on him. Venatial. So Venatial got a couple cards this set, and they're pretty good. Marield, 3 stars. This card is very strong. It can CB1 draw 1 not just on place, but also when it's retired. And then it has more text. It moves a card from your drop to the soul, which is useful because your main Venatial skill is Soul Blast. And when she attacks, she's a pretty chunky beater. Like it a lot. I think the card's pretty good. I don't think it changes the math on Venatial a lot, because I mean, you still are running other CB syncs. But yeah, card is pretty good. Makes it a lot more smooth to play. Hell. What do you do with the soul that you just got back from Marield? Well, you call this guy. So last one, on his own retire, he goes back to your hand. And a lot of the criticism I have for a lot of the common slops recently was that, oh, they say bounce back to hand, but then why would I want these back in your hand? Well, Hell gives you a pretty good reason. He's a really chunky shield, up to 20,000. Not only that, he works early as well. So on turn 1, he's a 10k. On turn 2, he's a 15. The card is really good. I think this smooths out Venatial a lot as something that's a little less fragile now. Overall, Venatial, I don't really want to oversell the deck. I think it's probably a 1-star deck. I don't think it's going to be doing a lot in tournament play. But on the fun side, I can definitely see this deck being a very enjoyable romp, especially if those new tools, draw a card, shield more, and then hit really hard with this card. I think this will be a lot of fun for Venatial fans. I just don't think you're going to win a lot of big events with it, but don't let that stop you from playing it. Finally, Slop. Eruption Fire Dragon Spinal Dynas. It can EB3 bind something, and that's about it. Big day for Emma Aizawa. Not so much for everyone else. 1 star. Stealthy Kawaii Tachi. Now every stealth card immediately becomes suspect for playability because of Shoujo Doji's existence. This is not one of them. When placed on rearguard other than from hand is really strict, and the payoff is the Soul Charge 1 on turn 3, and then it gets 5k. Don't play this card. You have better things to do. And that was all of Dragon Empire. Overall, pretty decent stuff. I think Youthberk is very fun. I think it's pretty cool. I think the Varga cards are good. And I think the Venatial cards are good as well. I just don't think any of them really cracked into the metagame right now. They're just a bit fragile. Nevertheless, I think if you are a Dragon Empire fan and you're not really playing to win all the time, you want to have a deck for fun, those decks will definitely do it. They are incredibly fun now and they're way more smooth. I highly recommend picking maybe Venatial up or something. That deck should be quite cheap. Okay, time to go to Dark States. So Dark States' kind of big boss this set is Gabwellius Phantom, the, spoiler alert, red herring boss for the Paralactic Clash anime. How is he? Let's find out. Aspiring Draco Kid, 1 star. This card, look, I just don't like the aesthetic of the Gabwellius cards. I think Dark Dragon is something you can do a lot with because it's really generically cool, but I just don't think they sell the fantasy very well. I don't think this is cool. Just keep playing the bear from Heartluru. That one's cute. 1 star, don't like it. Fruition Dragon, 3 stars. First of all, doesn't even need the Great Zero, so run whatever you want. Second of all, though it's a little slow, you can add any Crimson Moon to your hand from your deck with just EB3. And that's really good. No top 7 bullshit, just go. And in a pinch, it's good on board. And you may need cards on board in a pinch with Gabwellius, so 3 stars. I don't know if EB3 is the most suited cost. I'm sure you could play another cost and you'd be fine, like card design wise. I don't think it'd be too overtuned, but what do I know? 3 stars. Attainment Dragon, 3 stars. This card is also pretty good. I wish it was like top 5. I think that would give you a lot more to search with, and then you don't put everything into the bottom. You don't discard more than 1 or add more than 1, but you just have a bit more of an option. The second skill, oddly relevant. If you have nothing you need to Soul Blast, this is as strong as the triple rare attacker on turn 3. And in a pinch, you may be calling him. You may Soul Blast out. You may Soul Blast him out with something like Febrile Dragon, which we'll talk about later, and then call him back with Gabwellius' skill, and he'll be a pretty decent beater. He's not crazy, but he's quite good. I just wish he could look for a couple more cards. That's all. So, 3 stars. Okay, moving on. Gabwellius Phantom, 3 stars. He's okay. The Phantom skill is actually quite strong. Even if the crit effect doesn't really go off, this can still impact how you guard. So you can guard in a way where you can save cards, and the power skill that you get is really good. It's bind 1 for 5k to 4 to 5 attacks, depending on if you're running Babutsu, and I think that is pretty good. He's a little bland, so there's not a lot to say, and it'd be nice if he had some main phase advantage generating skill on his own, like something to call, like a great 1 from the drop zone or something, just to get back a booster maybe. But other than that, I mean, he's fine, he works. You will get advantage of stuff like Filias and whatnot, but in isolation, he's not great. Nothing to write home about, just solid. Reverend Dagger Dragon, 3 stars. Having the ability to build your board every turn with him is great, and his power scaling is nice, I suppose. Again, if you can get the Great 2 from your right line out of the Soul, he's a bit more efficient that he doesn't need to pay the cost, but sometimes you do want to pay the cost of Soul Blast 1 just to get things out, but, not always, so it makes it look a lot worse in comparison. I wish it was gaining 10k from the start. I think that wouldn't be asking for a lot. In my head, if you're making a 4 attack deck, you probably want to have some of your power higher. So I would like if this was 20k on the first grade 3 turn. I'm not sure that would be too much, but I think that's kind of what you need to push a deck like Gabwellius to playability in tournament play. He's fine, not much else to say about him. These cards are kind of bland, which is why I don't have a lot to say about them, but they work. Steam Maiden Spiral QD is a 2-star card. These cyclers are just a little bit low value, and you run them because you have to, but honestly I don't really like them a lot. I think in a lot of decks, as they get better mills and cycling, these are very high on the chopping block. She's cute, and you're gonna need her for Archetypes Phantom when that comes out, but as of now, she's fine. I don't even think Gabwellius is gonna play her in 4 copies, so maybe you can cheap out on 2. She's okay. Pious Breath Dragon, 3 stars. This card's really good. Main phase Soul Blast to get stuff out of the Soul from last turn. Milling 1 out of 5 is good, and then it becomes a 10k booster for either Febrile or your Vanguard. And the draw skill works, I believe, both when he's moved as cost and at the end of the turn. So even if you don't have stuff like Filias in rotation, this guy can draw you a ton of cards and net you some advantage. Really like him. If he had 1 more skill, he'd be 4 stars, or if he had more power, but he's fine. Febrile Dragon, another kind of combined rusher card, and he's okay. Soul Blast 2 is not a bad cost. You will always have 2 soul from last turn, and his power attacking is okay. Just being able to freely build your board again is very good. He doesn't really break a new number on something like him plus Filia, but he does work with Pious Breath, He's not very good being called by a Gabwellius skill because you want him in the drop zone to Soul Blast 2 of the cards that you just moved there. The more of him you run, the less of a benefit you get, so good at 1 and 2 copies. Other than that, don't run him more than that. He's okay. Devotion Dragon, 1 star. You'll be giving up 1 big attack so that later on another gains 5, 2 doses of 5 if it's turn 4. That's just a little bit slow, and you can just play one of the many cards that gain power on their own. Plus, you don't really get a way to Soul Blast out the things stuck in your soul like Reverend Dagger. So the opportunity cost in this is really high. Adoring Dragon, 1 star. Do not play this card. You need many of him to see the benefit, and the benefit is kind of low. Play Folklore. Play Philia. Overall, 2 stars. If I was being a bit harsher, I'd probably put him at 1. This deck is kind of mid. Gabwellius as a deck struggles to close out games, even if you run Bubetsu for the 5th attack or Gomans for the guard restrict. Its scaling hits its pinnacle on turn 5 when other decks have similar peaks but come out on like turn 4. Its resource game is pretty good, but it doesn't back it up with a lot. Another big issue is Twin Drive. You just can't sack as much as some of the other big dogs in the metagame, right? Extra drive doesn't matter if you don't check a trigger right, but if you do, then the difference is quite substantial. Your numbers are fine, and they get a lot better if you use Gabwellius' skill to declare power taking, but you also do need Persona Right to go off, and it's not like those Lyrical Phantom decks, which there's another one this set, where you can just bounce him back to your hand or something. It just doesn't work. There's just not a lot this deck can offer to you as a competitive player that other decks don't. This is also true for fun for some reason. Like, if you want a control-ish, slow scaling deck with high resource efficiency, go play Night Rules or something. Hell, if you want to feel like the final boss of the anime, go play Blangdmire. Heck, play Zerif. Even that one feels way better. It's a deck that is somehow for no one, and that is a shame. Alright, speaking of Blangdmire, let's talk about the big dog. I know I've got both of them here, but for now, we're focusing mainly on how it applies to Dark States. Although you may already know this, but the big card that he got works in both. I'll be talking about him as if I'm talking about both, but this section is for Dark State support exclusively. So, Mythage of Zero, Grivardi, 4 stars. This card is insane. Its text just keeps going. It's a recurring way for Blangdmire to gain a body back to the deck, so you get like maybe 1 extra turn when you're about to deck out. Smooths out a lot of the bullshit like boost orders in your deck and provides just so much power across the board. It's even good to discard for Ride if you don't find stuff like Tiskar. And in Blangdmire Phantom, it's also fine. Like, the grind game of Blangdmire Phantom is kind of a weak spot for it, where after you've gone through both your Phantom skills, now what? Well, now you have Grivardi to always have a board so that you can keep up the pressure. And obviously getting a restand is really good without needing to invest Counterblast, without needing to invest your space into Alchemist. Really good stuff. To my understanding, Blangdmire does okay this format. We have some results, and it's pretty much all thanks to him. Whether or not you think it's good that Blangdmire is good, you know, that's up to you. But yeah, I think the card is quite strong. Steam Fighter Zadusha, 1 star. Do not play this card. Just play Philia. Overall, 3 stars for competitive viability. I think Blangdmire is pretty good for this format. It's decently fast, it can cheese out games, but I think it has some inconsistencies like the right line that makes it a bit harder to sell you as a 4-star deck. It also has a pretty middling early game still, and these pieces don't really solve that. I mean, Grivardi helps a little bit. And if you look up the stats for the format, again, it has some tops, but nothing too crazy. And that's kind of where I expected it to be, so yeah, there you go. As for the fun and flavor, your numbers are now bigger. So 4 stars. That's more fun, right? Baromagnes, I guess, got support. Now, I don't know a lot about Baromagnes, quite frankly. This is one of my blind spots. A lot of the BT01 decks are kind of my blind spots. So I'm going to try to give you a review how I can, based on what I think I know about the deck. But just so you know, don't take my word as gospel for these. Fluid Suffocator, 3 stars. As an alleged member of the Baromagnes Hater Elite 4, this card is pretty good. It's got good enough early skill, CB1 draw 1 is fine, and the latter skill that makes it better is also great. I'm surprised more cards don't do this. To my understanding though, Baromagnes does not have an issue filling up the soul, more so like doing anything with the soul. So this gets a star knocked off because it can't really do much with it, but it's fine. Plus, shield. Wow, really good double rare. Zonelon, holy crap, that art is amazing. I think that such a big soul charge is really good, but again, like I said, I'm pretty sure again that Baromagnes isn't struggling for ways to soul charge. I'm just wondering if you have better utility pieces to run in that deck, and thus this is taking up a space that could be used on those. I'll put it at 1 just to be a little bit more conservative. Overall, I mean, don't play Baromagnes if you want to be competitive. You know this information already. These cards don't change that. And for fun, I mean, it moves out a couple early turns, so hey, I'm sure it's more fun. If you're playing Baromagnes, you're doing it for fun. Direful Dolls. This is a deck that Bushiroad loves so much. And it has very good cards. Concetta is a 4-star card. I cannot believe this exists. From turn 1, it's already a 10k shield, and the power skill is very good. She even buffs Angrbold so that he hits a real number, and because you can CC pretty efficiently in Direful Dolls, the cost can be alleviated. Working from the drop is really great, and I don't know, this deck is just so loved. I mean, the biggest issue is that it's a main phase CV before you have access to your countercharger, as far as I can tell. But other than that, I mean, this card is amazing. Gigliola is also a 4-star card, a 4-star rare, can you believe that? Checking top 7, putting 1 to your hand, and then putting a card from your hand to the soul is the kind of skill that you give a double rare back in the day. Not only that, putting stuff in the soul in Direful Dolls doesn't matter, like, that's fine, you want that even. And it also has power and then converts into guard for the next turn. Like, how is this even a bad card? How is this a rare? This should be like a triple rare, and I'd be like, oh, you know, maybe a little bit undercooked. A rare? This card is incredible. 4 stars. This, like, is as good as Reverend Dagger Dragon, basically, if not better. Okay, despite all that, I think Dolls is a 2-star deck competitively. I don't think that Dolls is very crazy in the metagame or anything. There's a little bit of jank associated with it, like the CB skill for the main oomph, meaning you can get CB denied out of some play, but the deck is nothing to sneeze at a rogue level. The numbers are much better now. Consistency and replicability across the games is very good. You just have to kill the demon in your head that still thinks of this deck as a grindy control deck for some reason. It does have a good guard skill, but it really is just an efficient deck that can go fast, filter a ton, and then triple drive. And you can use that guard to grind the game out so that your filtering leads to really high trigger rates. On the side of fun, 4 stars, I think this deck is going to be really fun if you're really into Dolls. If you're a new player, I highly recommend this as a deck. It teaches you a lot, and it's pretty cheap, and I think you'll have a good time. Okay, let's talk about Elma Jestar. I don't think this deck got a lot better this set. This deck wasn't exactly good to begin with, so here you go. Megantic Chimera. 2 stars. This card is okay. It gives Elma Jestar a slight raise to her very middling ceiling, and it gives some dig, but it doesn't impact the board a lot. It's good enough to run, just not good enough to make the deck a lot better. Surround Chevalius, I don't understand this one. Don't play this card. It came out on the same day as the other Elma Jestars, so here you go. You can now have even more negative filter if you want. Overall, 1 star. I'm sorry, I just don't think this deck is very good. I think it's so far behind, and the decks, these new cards, they don't do a lot for it. I don't even think it makes it much more enjoyable for season pilots, so it's pretty aggravating. She already has good stuff with the P-Rides and the Combined Rushers, and she doesn't miss her skills very often as a result, but she's just so reliant on Bifrons, and her ceiling is just so low, it's just not good enough. Okay, Slop. When placed on rearguard, soul charge 1, and if you soul charge 1 trigger, you get the EC1. Don't play this card. Why would you ever play this card? You can tell it's bad. Before the video continues, I just want to advertise, I do have a Ko-Fi. I'm not going to paywall any content. Obviously, I don't really have a lot to paywall. But if you'd like to support the channel and what I do, and you want to see me, you know, maybe try to upload a bit more regularly, maybe improve this microphone of mine, then any help would be appreciated. You don't have to donate. Just want to put it out there in case you do want to support the channel and what I do. Okay, back to the video. So that was Dark States. It certainly is a nation in this set. If you like Blangdmire, the cards are good. And if you don't like Blangdmire, well, you got not much. Gabwellius is kind of bland. The Elma Jestar cards are pretty bad. There's just not a lot to love there. The Dolls cards are really good though. Those are also very strong. If you like Dolls, there you go. This set is for you. But no one else really. Which is a shame. I just wished Gabwellius was a little bit more interesting and a little bit more powerful. Okay, let's move on to Brandgate. Brandgate got some pretty interesting stuff this set. To start off, let's talk about Veissrugr's card, Angrbold. And your eyes don't deceive you, I really do think this is a 4-star card. I know it looks like this card is just a Gigantic Smasher. I know what it looks like. but this card really does a lot. Recycling all 3 of the Mythic is really good, and it helps into, which later on will help you refill the gate, and give you a better deck out game against, all the decks that draw and drive a ton. And it's really not so hard to get this card online on turn 3. The hand effect is also very good. Legitimately, I think you just cut all the Buster Barrages, play the Mythics you can filter out, and then you'll just see the shield in your hand because you'll only have triggers in your deck, or PGs. And I also think it means you will check more defensives. I think if this card did even like one more thing, it'd be too good. That's really what I believe. And I recognize that I have a pretty heavy bias. Veissrugr is probably one of my favorite decks of all time, but I do think this card is very good. If you don't think this card is a 4-star card, I can see that. But I also think you should try it. I think you'll be quite impressed. I played at like 4. Personally, I think it's good enough to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's up to you. I think 3 stars is probably a bit more, unbiased. But my personal opinion, max out on this card. Cut the Buster Barrages, go ham, just play this deck aggressively. I think it's not so bad. Plus, this card auto wins the Prison matchup, so that's fun. Overall, I think Veissrugr is like 3 stars as a deck. It's decent to good, and I still think it has some issues with replicability over the course of a long tournament, though that's sort of dealt with Angrbold. I still think going second is really bad. If you're on the draw trigger variants, which Veissrugr tends to be on, those 15Ks to guard are really difficult to guard. I think the speed isn't as good as some of the top performers in the game, and Bushiroad for some reason understands how to design decks once they went into Veissrugr, because they gave this deck filter but also locked him to Twin Drive, which is something that like Heart Luru doesn't do. So your sack chance is actually a lot lower than you think. It's still a really good spot for Veissrugr. I think he's fine, and I don't think the results are really showing that. But that's because they're not building him right. They're not building him right. They're not. Well, that's probably not true. Maybe I am overselling the deck a little bit, but in my head, this deck is pretty good. And I also think it's a lot of fun. Calling big Chungus out is a lot of fun. So, 4 stars there. If you like Veissrugr, you'll like Angrbold. Before we move on to the next archetype, I want to talk about this generic. Sporadic Zero Dragon is a 3-star card. I think it has some useful applications. It's good in the new Aelquilibra. It's probably fine in Eva. And I think it's pretty funny if you play Orphis Regis Pure. Sorry, I also hear you can run this card in like a Zorga variant that just mills it so you have shield. But honestly, the applications are not very broad right now. But keep an eye on this card. If a card that comes out, if like a deck comes out that really wants Order Zones stuff, this card will be very expensive. Having guard skills off board is very good. If you've ever played Twin Cast, you should know that. So just keep an eye out on this one. If there's even one more powerful deck that wants this card instantly spikes in price. So just look out for that. 3 stars though, pretty strong. Okay, let's now talk about Aelquilibra Phantom, one of the new Phantom decks. Manga exclusive, by the way. Librecht, which is the archetype. Joao Dragon, 2 stars. He's kind of skinny, but you do need him for the right line, so 2 stars. Rakuten Warfare Dragon is a 4-star right line. Top 7 search is good, and then he even has a skill in your soul later on, and that lets you recycle your products. I think that kind of value is really hard to come by, and I love it a lot. I dig that a lot. I think this is great. More right lines like this, please. Very interesting stuff. Gatling Cannon Dragon, 4 stars as well. I really like this shtick of grade 2 right lines that can do something on board. Having the ability to operate in right line, and then also becoming like an intercept enabler later on for your orders, and then going into the order zone himself to keep stuff like Bubble Mine or Baldoritz online. Crazy stuff. Love this card. Think it's super tight. And Aelquilibra Phantom himself, 3 stars. Honestly, I do like him quite a bit. He has a way to unclog your hand, which is good for a deck that has to run 1,000,000 orders. And you draw the card to try and get a card of shield. Operating 3 is pretty reasonable, and you can Phantom skill pretty regularly because the opportunity cost is so low at only needing to bind 1. So you'll always get pretty good value. My issue with this deck is kind of the same as I have with Dragon Empire Libra, where I think if they wanted the deck to be super competent, they could have given you a way to overcharge easier, to get 5 overcharges easier. As it stands, you're just kind of going to have some bunguses on the board who just don't do much of anything. But he's still fine. So let's break the order of how I talk about stuff in order of rarity, and let's talk about the orders. Webaris is a 3-star card. It's very good. It's a restander, it's a beater, and he's a pretty chunky intercept at 10k. The ability to draw a card on operation is also incredible. Really good stuff. But I mean, they are all kind of bogged down by the fact that you only can have one of each order at a time. So yeah, he's pretty good in a vacuum, but in the context of Aelquilibra, it gives a little bit to desired. Still pretty good. Tristia, 2 stars. Again, you can only have one of him on board. He's a pretty chunky guy, but the crit is nice, but it's not backed up by a lot of power. I don't really think he's ever going to hit. He's only ever basically going to swing after the Vanguard, and in that scenario, I don't think he's going to chip more cards out than what Waybaris can do. So, I don't know. He's fine though. Nothing crazy. Rovroy is also a 2-star card. It gives you a once per game kind of like divine skill of the ping, which is fine, but I'm more irritated that it doesn't do much otherwise and also is Persona Ride reliant. The power drain is fine. Minus 5k is the kind of thing they give to Brandgate so that, you know, Elder Breath doesn't become even more overbearing. But like, you don't really want to overcharge this more than once, which kind of makes it a bit iffy. So it doesn't have a lot of value over the course of the game, I feel. It's fine. There's nothing better to run, obviously, so I'm going to evaluate it as a 2-star card. Because I just think it could have been a little better, and it wouldn't have been too game-breaking. And also, it's still a 5k shield. That's pretty small. Librecht. Vicious Dragon. I gotta brush up on my German. So, this is basically what your resource loop is going to amount to. And when you want to accumulate resources or post the quote-unquote divine skill turn, you are clicking this guy over Rovroy. And he's pretty good, because unlike Rovroy, we can use him a couple times rather than only use him once. CB1 can be kind of heavy, and honestly he is a bit slow, but it's decently good. He is very needed to get your resource game going. Diffusion Dragon, 1 star. There just isn't front row space in Aelquilibra. You want to have both the orders. Don't play this card. Alchemblick. This is a 13-10. Don't play this. Play other cards. Overall, 2 stars. I think this deck just has a weird time killing your opponent before you deck out with all the filtering and drawing and order searching, and it's just strange. Your power has a pretty solid cap, even with that 5k drain, and the attack pattern is pretty telegraphed and easy to guard, at least relative to other cards in the game. I don't think he's going to win any major events, and I think he'll be fine at the local level, and from what I've seen, he does work quite smoothly. 4 stars on the Fundo, killer flavor, he's done great. Okay, did you know Rotovisor got cards this set? Me neither. Let's look at them. Evan Forts, 2 stars I guess? I don't really know a lot about Rotovisor in general, but I can tell that it's not particularly good. I mean, it's fine. This card adds some consistency, and blocking off intercepts is nice, I guess. But this deck still doesn't really have kill power. This deck doesn't really do anything. And also, needing to have Great +1 is really funny. Please, you have to hit the Great 2 right line skill. What else are you gonna do with this deck? Filet Brande, 1 star. I don't really know why we need 3 energies so badly to run a bad card and go -1. But yeah, if you play Rotovisor, sound off in the comments. But otherwise, I have no idea. Overall, 1 star, don't play this deck. This deck doesn't feel good. There's no reason to play it. It's not good competitively. It doesn't feel good. All the cards that they release for Rotovisor are just trying to fix the mistakes they made in DZ-BT14. It's a curse. But hey, if you like the deck, go ahead. But I don't know. I don't see why you would. Zorga Phantom also got some new cards, and I think they're fine. Uproarious Scream is a new creation beast and enables your 5th attack. The card is good. It makes you needing to Persona Ride way more pronounced, and despite that, it is a good card. An attack extender that keeps you having triple drive off Hendrina is good, and the cost is a little bit heavy, but you could just think of that as choosing between like this or draw 2 with Alchemix. This gives Zorga a much better way of dealing that 6 point of damage is always missing, just a little bit off usually. And honestly, prior to this card, Zorga Phantom was okay. Nothing great, but you know, rogue level playable. So, solid stuff. Really like this card. Deep Depths Expose. 2 stars. He's not so bad, but the space is quite tight in Zorga Phantom. If you have to cut something for it, what do you cut? the other researchers give you a lot of advantage, and the genomes are what you want to search anyways. So I don't know. The shield is kind of nice, and I can see a bit of application with that, but I just think it's outclassed by a lot of the prior offerings the deck has. Okay, so overall, I gave Zorga a 3 stars, but it's kind of weird, because I don't think he's a 2-star deck, in that I think if you put him in a lower power format, this guy kind of rolls a lot of decks. But I also don't really think he even is as good as something like Varga or Veissrugr. Think of it as like 3 rounded up from like a 2.5. This deck is really fun though. I really like playing Zorga Phantom, like just having... I really like playing Zorga Phantom and like borrowing the deck off a friend or something. This deck is quite fun. And it will be more fun when you can have a 4th attack with a monkey. You know, that will really seal the deal. Blitz as a company got cards, or maybe Welstra got cards, you know, depending on how you look at it. That's not what the card is. It's something recent. But this is a 2-star card. She does give some good resources, and she does work off board, which is good. But I don't think this does enough to help out Welstra. It's hard to find good space for her in Welstra. The space is getting kind of tight. So, 2 stars. Card is not bad though. Turagen is a 1-star card. I have no idea why they make these kind of cards. Drop 1 to add 1 back, only on Welstra Vanguard. Don't play this deck. I mean, not the deck, you can play the deck, but don't play this card. Overall, 2 stars on like comp viability, like rogue level. I just don't think he's very good right now. You have a lot of hands that are kind of weird. The aggro isn't much better than any of the other aggressive decks in the format. Like, it's not better than Zorga. These cards are just kind of weird. I think Raisin can kind of help you if you can find the space, but I just don't think you can. So yeah, it's not enough. In fun, 2 stars, I don't think he's much more fun than he was before. So I hope you guys get a cool Phantom soon. Puffy Emanator, 1 star. 10k for 1 turn, only on grade 3, and you put a set order to bottom. Why do I bother? 1 star. Cute art though. Mobility Flagger. I wish this card had been more application. It's kind of cute. And if the attacking unit was placed other than from hand this turn, or there's a lot of restrictions on a big shield, I wouldn't play this. So that is Brandgate, and I think it is kind of good. I think Veissrugr is good, I think the generic is good, and I think Aelquilibra is good. I really do think that about those 3 things. I don't think they're fine. I think if you play this nation, these decks will be cool. Otherwise, not really much for you. Brandgate is always the kind of nation where you have to really be in it to enjoy the cards there, otherwise it's just not very fun. I expect to see Veissrugr do better at some point, but maybe not now. And I think Aelquilibra Phantom has potential, but as of now, I would not expect it to see at high level play. Okay, now let us talk about Keter Sanctuary this set. I thought Keter Sanctuary would get like Rezael cards this set, and all we got was maids. So let's look at those. Proa is a 3-star. I think she's cute, not as cutesy as I would have expected, but also she's needed for the deck to work, so 3 stars. So this is a deck that needs a token gauge, kind of like Impauldio, right? But on Ride, not only do you get it, it has another skill on the guard circle. And that's pretty good. Don't look at the when this unit is rolled upon if you went second thing. That's a bug. That's a I miswrote that, sorry. So I like that it can set the gauge and also function as a shield. That is really nice. This is the Garden token in question. It's kind of like B-Hero-esque. It not only facilitates you to have extra persona rides, but also you have like kind of B-Hero level filtering. So the deck is kind of like that, but also more like dolls in its grind game patterns. It's solid, I just don't want to rate the token. Movie is a 3-star card. It's the Ride line. On its ride, your front row or rear guards basically gain resist, which is a good thing to have. I mean, it was probably more important when stuff like Virgilla was around and they had early bind, but these days, it's just nice to have this kind of skill. Beats Scarlet Flameout, and also, it lets you call one of your engaged cards, and I like that a lot. I like that you can call something from your order zone already. You know, it's, you can get stuff like the triple rare art, and triple rare is very good, so it becomes a little bit toolboxy, but it is dependent on what your gauge can get you. Though it is really nice that it works so early. Plus it's an act, not an on-ride, so you can tap your gauge, check your 7, put your Bel-Fiores in there, and then call it out. Really good stuff. Maya is a 4-star card. She's actually a really good Vanguard. It has a lot of the skills that I like in a Vanguard, that I think should be standard and is also good design. There is some amount of value in the resist, but there's also power, there's attack extension, and there's also a skill to guard. Lovely stuff, and the costs are pretty reasonable as well. Maybe the fact that it's CB1 does sometimes lock you out of some bigger turns if your opponent denies you, but I think she's fine. Really impressed with this. I think it's a really good baseline. Next up, Suera, the other triple rare. This card is really good as well. I again worry about dipping into Counterblast, but you don't have to use that skill. Not only that, the skill also works on Guardian Circles, so you can kind of get more draw. It's kind of like the Cycler, except you can check top 2 and add 1. This gives you a higher chance to get the guard you need. It also works, you know, when you use Maya's skill to move it there. That's great. And of course it's passively gaining power. Of course it's also your restander. This does a lot. You can only call 1 of each name from the token zone, so you can't CB1 call 2 of these. But if you have 1 in your hand already and you have the EB to pay, this is a really efficient way to get 5 attacks, and it gives you a good number, and it also helps if you're guarding later. So I like this card a lot. Very strong. Meek, 2 stars. Without stuff like Virgila in the format, and this only hitting the front row, the removal is a little bit middling, so she's just a big beater. She's fine. She's a name you can run, and it's worth running on that merit. But you can probably rather have something like Suera on board, unless you really can't find her. The card is solid, 2 stars just because I'm being a little strict, but yeah. Aprina, 2 stars. She's weird. We don't really have a card in Standard that works like her, I'm pretty sure. But in the event your opponent has Blitz orders or something, you do get the draw. Not to mention, the influx of Phantom decks and the Crimson Moon mean you'll also get more value from her more often than not. And then, you know, a lot of decks just run Elementaria. You'll get value from that. But she is still a bit niche, so 2 stars. A lot of the Bel-Fiores are boosted by the fact that they are just a good name. And having more names is good. Bel-Fiore Pinez, 3 stars. Her defensive utility is high in a deck that can consistently get her on the board. And you can proc her skill as early as turn 2 with your ride line. I like it a lot. Xion, saved by the fact that you need names. But digging into your soul is a little bit rough, because that's where you want to guard from. And you want to use both skills over the course of a long game, so kind of iffy. At least she's a big shield as well. Noze, I think this is a 4-star card because I think you need it to have your resource loop keep going. For a common, it's really good. And then with the plus 2k, it matters when boosting stuff like Meek or the Vanguard, so I do like what she does. Overall though, I think it's a 2-star deck in terms of viability. It's like Dolls in its attack patterns, and you get a lot of value out of the shield and the filter, but I do think it is a little bit on the slower end. Unlike Dolls, it doesn't really have a crazy aggro line, or gains a lot of drive to leverage the filter, so I'm less sold on her as a concept. She will get better as more Bel-Fiores come out. Remember, Dolls is like 1 million dolls, right? This only has the number I shall show you here. So if you're interested in the deck, and you want to bet on Wave 2, this is probably a fine idea. On the level of fun, this is probably a 4 on that. I think it's executed very well. Okay, let's move on to Rezael. So Rezael did not get a new form this set like I thought he would. I believe they're going to save that from whatever the movie booster is, right? Instead he got this. Orchidis is a 4-star card. She's really good. Everything is costless on her text, and she allows you to play less of the, not good cards in Rezael, but it means you can kind of trim a lot of the fat and just play a ton of her, and she will cycle to find stuff later on by drawing new cards. She's a pretty big beater, and the toolbox applications of a mill are really strong. Rezael hasn't done a lot with this card still. I've seen like a larger win with Rezael, like I think in a Korean tournament, where they're on like 4 of this, and then a bunch of the other Rezael pieces are like 1-offs. And I think that's really interesting, and it means you can filter a lot as well. So I think the card is very good. It lets you mill stuff like Maples, Refister, Gabwellius, you know, cards you don't want to see in your drive checks, but you want to see in general. And, you know, you could technically mill something, get a bag of Essential on turn 2. So there are a ton of applications you could use. But whatever it is, those applications are all filled by her. So 4 stars, very strong card. This is Petrifaction Angel, not Orchidis, 1 star. Do not play this card. Losing Sargon cannot be that bad, right? This is the same as the Varga card. It only adds the Mythich. Not good enough. Don't play this. Maybe as a budget option, but at that point, just play Lien. Overall, 3 stars. I think this elevates Rezael a ton. Gives it way more dig, filter, increases trigger rate with set filter. Pieces are found easier. You don't have to worry about drawing into Refister or Gabwellius who aren't very good in your hand, for example. It's not the final form of Rezael, but it's something. I think it's still a little bit off what I would think a strong deck is, but I think it's okay enough. Like, if this topped a WGP, I wouldn't bat an eye. And I think it'll be very fun for Rezael players to get to play around in the toolbox more, really test your ability as a deck builder and as a player. Okay, back to Blangdmire, but now the one on the right, not the one on the left. An XP Dragon is a 3-star card. It's like Veissrugr Dragon. You CB1 and you call something from your bind zone. Pretty strong. It's also a 15/10, which is very strong. And it gains another 5k, assuming you have a bound card of his name. And that is very relevant. 20k is good. I think CB1 is kind of hefty, which is why I put it at 3 stars, but I think the toolboxing and board building applications of this card are too good to pass up. So, 3 stars. Really good stuff. Ill Omen is one of the few ways that you can speed up your binding these days. Since they've lost the hostage package, it's a little tougher, but I quite like the card. It's free. It doesn't cost you any real thing except for deck real estate to play it, so I quite like it. The Grade 1 slot is kind of heavily contested though, so I don't think it's going to be easy to find space for it, if at all. But it does work off stuff like the Phantom skill and the Night Order, so that might be a bit of a bonus, but the card is still a little bit weak. 2 stars if I'm being pretty optimistic, but likely 1 star. Overall, for Keter Sanctuary, I think Blangdmire is a 3-star deck. The deck is fine, we saw some success of it last format, and it has some good showings here and there from that format. And Grivaldi helps the deck in one of its weaker points, which is its grind game at the end. When you've used both your Phantom skills, you can't have any real recursion with his own skill, and Grivaldi will help you there. And XP is very good for that too, but it's nothing that's going to tip it over the edge, I feel. It's very strong. I really like it a lot though. And I think, and on the flavor side, for fun, I think you'll have a good time with this. Okay, Sorceress. Again, one of my blind spots. So, Star Select Sorceress to me reads like the 4-star card. This card looks really good. Sorceress, as far as I know, doesn't have an energy sink, so EV3 draw 1 is really strong. And the second skill is really good as well. Other decks would kill for a skill this good to be able to keep your divinations, to keep checking the top card, gaining power. I think that is very useful. Nevertheless, I just don't think that Hexa Orb is very strong. I think you probably wouldn't argue with me even if you're a diehard Hexa Orb fan. I think you would still think this is a 1-star in terms of viability, but I'm sure she's quite fun. Again, Hexa Orb players, just take whatever you can get. This is a pretty good card. I don't think this changes anything about where it's placed in the metagame though. Maybe like from L tier you go to K tier, but yeah, rough stuff for the deck. Really needs a new Vanguard, I think. Still a little bit slow. Would you believe that Liao got cards? They're not very good, but she did get them. Angrbold is a 2-star card. I mean, despite it working with all the Liels, it is really more of an Anima/Amorda pure rather than a Draconis hybrid card, because the combined rusher skill is an EB3. The first skill is fine. Being able to search for anything to mill is nice-ish in Amorda, maybe, because you can shuffle it back. I really don't know, honestly. I don't know what they were thinking. The discard skill probably works best in Draconis where you want to bind it, right? But the second skill works with the energy, which is something that Draconis doesn't really have, so I don't really know where she wants to fit into. I mean, both skills are independently fine, I guess. I don't know there's space in Draconis, but there might be space in pure Amorda. I don't know. 2 stars. Listen Up Shishiri is one of the few cards that can give your Liel Vanguard power, which is nice that you don't just swing 23, but it is still a little bit bad otherwise. Like, look at top 2, and then put 1 to Soul. I don't know. That feels really weak. And you have to, like, quote-unquote, go minus for it. Works with Draconis, though. 2 stars. I think I'm a bit swayed by the artwork, though, rather than the skills, so grain of salt. Overall, I don't think the deck is any more competitive than it was before, both for Draconis and pure Animus with Amorda. The decks don't move very much. Last format, they didn't do a whole lot either. And I don't think this support really knows what it wants to be. I don't think lists will change much with these 2 cards anyways. So, on the fun level, I mean 3 stars because Draconis/Amorda is fun to begin with, but it didn't change a lot with these cards. 3 stars. Alright, Common Slop. 1 star. 15k, 13k conditional booster, not good enough. Ufugaon is kind of interesting. It is a guard rear guard that is good in stuff like Houndraiser, but honestly, I don't really see the application. Don't play this card. It's like a 15k shield. Wow, there are like a million blitz orders that work with this and don't have as many restrictions. Okay, that was all of Keter Sanctuary. In general, I think Keter Sanctuary is kind of underwhelming this set. Bel-Fiore is fine, but it's not really an anime set, which means its hype is a little bit lower. and Rezael only getting a supporting rearguard is a bit disappointing. Nevertheless, the cards are decent for Rezael and Blangdmire, but if you're a Morta player, sorry about that one. Not much there. Now we can talk about Impauldio Phantom. So first things first, the starter, 4 stars. Super cute. You need her for the Grade 1 right line, so 4 stars. The Grade 1. I don't know if I'm being very greedy or if I'm very severely undervaluing the turn-by-turn value of the system code exceed gauge, but having a Grade 1 right line that just sets the token is kind of mid. Like we just saw with Bel-Fiore, they get to do something else, like the card gets to work on board. And I'm surprised that this doesn't work either in the same vein, because now Impauldio Phantom is an archetype-based deck that needs more exceedances, and this could easily get into your gauge, so I don't really know why it doesn't have a second line of text. 3 stars because the exceed gauge is really good, but I don't know, I wish it could do something else on 1. Dora's Evolia is a 4-star card. This card is also good. It has a lot of value, fixes your gauge kind of, retrieves early guard that you used, or you can get like a moon straight out of your deck. The biggest downside is that it's top 7. Again, like, I think this one you kind of have to have it be top 7 because there are 2 effects going off, but if it goes off, the benefit is crazy. And even if it just sets like the marker and engages one thing, we'd still be in very good shape with the card. No complaints really. I don't know if I put in the marker. I didn't. Okay, so the marker gives 5k per every 2 gauges you have to the unit that it's on, like the rearguard unit that it's on top of it. And at the end of the turn, you can EV2 to bounce the unit on top of the marker to your hand. Good stuff. So moving on now, we look at Impauldio Phantom, who is a 3-star card. And she is pretty good. CB1 to gauge 1 from your drop and continue your power scaling, which is good. The big columns and some of the center line pressure isn't bad. Like, as in, you know, your center line has crit and drive. Not like it's big, that's one of the problems, right? It's not a big center line. I like that the Phantom skill gives you a bit of the option, though you'll probably always be taking drive, then drive plus the back row swing, then you finally get all 3. My biggest issue with the deck, as I've said before, is that her power line alone is really low. Like, the Vanguard is very low power. And that's not necessarily a bad thing from a balance perspective, but from a competitive viability standpoint, a Vanguard that will be unboosted and has a cap of like 28,000 power may not be the best thing ever. Exceedance Pressy Forward, 4 stars. This card does a lot in its application of swapping the gauge, which is massive. You can get like real units out and call stuff like P right from the gauge to bounce back, which I thought would be kind of hard to recycle, but honestly isn't with the markers. She fixes your board state really well and gives you a resource loop that you really need. So 4 stars, strong card as hell. I just wish it did something on board. It wasn't just fodder, you know? Lapigrosa is also a 4-star card. This card is really good. It takes for the moons, or your board. It's the biggest number that you can find within the archetype, within, you know, reason. The guard skill is also pretty appreciated, and you should be able to get the soul really easy with this deck, though it does kind of compete with Pressy's draw. Still, really good card, really solid. Now the big weak point of the deck are these Grade 1s, which don't really do a whole lot. So first up is Noi Eras. This card is really pivotal to your resource game, which is nothing wrong with that, which is why, you know, it has a good star rating to begin with, but she just doesn't do a lot on board. And while the front 2 rearguard slots are set in stone and are good, you still kind of have 2 back row slots that don't do much, and I think this deck just misses that. Hell, I was so convinced that this was on purpose, and you were supposed to just multi-attack with like the marker enabling the attacks, but that's not the case. She's a 2 because she does have a pretty good function, and you want to run as many Exceedance names as you can reasonably, but it is still a bit limited, and it just doesn't do enough on board. So 2 stars. Lita is 1 star. Her application is kind of mid. It's a cool way to do a plus 5k plus 5 shield, but the deck really needs Exceedance names, so you'll probably just run it for that if at all, and even still the opportunity cost is very high. Mary Crescia is a 1 star. Kind of weird. Don't play this. This gets like 5k and can't be intercepting. Just not a very comprehensive set of skills. Not worth playing. Go play Vinstar in regular Impauldio instead. Overall though, I rate this deck a 3 stars. I have softened on this deck a lot. I think the Exceed gauge does a lot as per usual, the drive does a lot, and the deck is actually quite solid. The jank of something like how Zerif works doesn't really exist, because this is a lot of cards with guard, bounce to get more guard, and that is quite nice. The moons are also able to go 1 at a time and slowly accumulate, or go for 2 in 1 shot to get more effects, so that's really strong. So overall, I think the core is really consistent and solid. My main issue is more of like a logistical one, that being a wave 1 deck means there are no really good Exceedance units to go to the back row, So you're on generic cards, or forced to call some of the great ones that don't really do much on board. The generics don't synergize with cards like Lappy and the in-deck great ones, just they're not very good. So it's like 2 slots on board that do nothing, with the exception being back row center, that can only intercept if you declare the skill, or pay the cost to bounce. So I think she'll get better with time, and she shows a ton of promise, but I did think the same thing about the other Impauldio, and that guy's not very good. As for kind of fun / flavor, I put this a bit lower than the other ones just because I think if you're a regular Impauldio player, I don't think you will like her very much. I actually think they're very different decks. They play on very different axes. This obviously doesn't have the multi-drive, like small amount of attacks that the other one does. This is a kind of a different experience, and I think it's more of its own thing rather than really being Impauldio. Although if you like the Exceed gauge, then, you know, that'll do. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Kairi. Kairi got some cards this set, and they are pretty good. I don't know if she's in a particularly good spot despite that, but here they are. Imantine, I would say, is a 3-star card. She's pretty good. You can sub out stuff like Prisia in builds that run her already, and then you get more access to the order, and getting more access to the order is pretty good because that means your power lines are going to be huge. The inbuilt high 5 that also digs into your energy is good because you don't really have an energy sink beforehand. It is a good booster and beater. It smooths out some of the order jank in some previous iterations, but I just don't think it solves a lot of the deck's problems of being kind of a fragile glass cannon. So yeah, that is a 3-star card right there. Nothing terrible, and it is quite good, just doesn't solve Kairi's issues. Apuil. This is a pretty good rare. Basically lets you draw a card if you can bounce, but it's kind of slow, which is why I put it at 2. I think the draw isn't that bad. It's kind of a nice way to do in-soul draw 1, but a lot of Kairi decks don't run Acety's right line, and thus this is kind of slow. The bounce basically only come out on like turn 3, and in theory you want to resend like whole columns as well. But there are applications for this. I could see this working out, so 2 stars. And Kairi, as far as I know, hasn't really done too much in the metagame right now, so shrug. I wish this card was a little better. So overall, 2 stars on terms of viability. I think she's just a bit too fragile as the other newer decks have higher power levels, and thus as a glass cannon, it's fine, but she's clearly showing a bit of age. 4 stars, sorry, not 4, 3 stars in terms of adding to the enjoyment, because I think you get to use the order more, and that is an enjoyable experience. So 3 stars right there. Artesaria got a card. She got 1, but it's a good one. Sophia is a 3-star card. She's quite good. Her power lines are quite chunky going late, and sort of eases the issue that Artesaria has, which is that she really needs Persona Ride. My gripe is that this could have probably been top 7. I think that would have been fine. This is like the same kind of text that the rare Direful Doll has, and this is top 5 and that one's top 7. I think it would have been fine. Artesaria is a deck that is kind of annoying to deal with, but nothing that's beyond the metagame, quite frankly. And that may be why they don't want to give it a lot of support, because they're afraid like it's an unfun experience to play against Lock. But I don't know, I think a lot of the other decks are way stronger, and I think sometimes even more aggravating than Lock, so yeah, you could print stronger Artesaria cards, I feel. Overall, 2 stars. Artesaria remains a deck that just kind of loses to bad variants because naturally you have more turns of Vanguard where you are not winning as Artesaria, but your opponent could check something devastating. And these are tough sells for Artesaria. The order jank still kind of exists as well, meaning like you're gonna just open a bunch of orders and it's gonna suck. There are some middling turns without Persona Ride, and the deck is kind of format dependent on its usefulness, like whether or not its lock does anything. Like one of the best decks in the game is Deep Lands. What does your lock do? Not much. And even in like a hard control matchup, you're gonna really need a couple turns of dodging bad variants. 3 stars on fun and feeling good. I think this will make more Persona Ride turns happen, and therefore you'll have more fun with Artesaria. But I don't really think this changes the math on how good this deck is, which is a shame. This deck is really cool. Alright, Ledia Mates, my beloved. The deck that I topped Lyrical Cup with. Go check out that video. Didn't do very well. In any case, she got some new tools, and they are pretty good, if not deceptively so. And Cicera is a 3-star card. She's really strong. She provides soul and energy, and she's super repeatable because she's kind of a combined rushers type card, meaning you can freely use stuff like Valsh, Simis, Straja too. All that jazz, and it also functions kind of like a Reseus that gives power to your board, so it helps in power climbing. The need for her to boost a Magnolia may seem like it holds it back a little bit, and it kind of does as the game progresses, but I think it is not so bad. I think Magnolia Vanguard is best when she swings unboosted, so your opponent wastes a perfect guard on her, and this card works boosting a Magnolia Rearguard, which will just bounce at the end of the turn anyways. As a result, this card boosts both the ceiling and the floor, and even gives you a bit of an early game plan with like grade 1 attacks. So, really cool stuff. I really like it. A lot more than I thought I would. Marfer is a 2-star card. It's Defensing Roar if you squint. Sometimes you do have CB that's open, and you can theoretically dip into it with like Alpin's countercharge as well. So in low quantities, I could see this being something that bounces something important like Delage back to your head, or just being an extra shield that can help you. It's no Defensing Roar obviously, but it's quite strong. Overall, 3 stars. I think this will make Magnolia Phantom a little bit more dynamic. I think she does have a top recently as well, and that's pretty good. And having more good names means that your shield value is going to be a lot higher. That means you're going to always hit more of your deck skills as well. I think this will make the filter and the checking OT, same game plan as always. And it's just a stronger win con overall. I just think she has a lot more going for her than some of the other 2-star decks on this list. And for the fun, I think you have a 3-star level of fun. I think you get a lot of fun and cool deck building possibilities thanks to these cards. Really like them. Last but not least, did you know Flamglam got a card too? It's not bad. It's quite interesting. Simone is a 2-star card. In theory, this can boost your power up a ton. In practice, there are some breakpoints in Flamglam that you want. Like, you want it to be a multiple of 5, right? You want to have 5k power to your Vanguard, or 10k power, so you want total damage to be like... So if your opponent is at 4 and you're at 5, this does change the math on that a lot. And it's kind of like a main phase dive to blue, which is good, but I just don't think this changes the math on Flamglam's popularity, nor does it change it on the power side. Like, what are you cutting for this? Maybe dive to blue. CB tapping is kind of rough for Flamglam as well, as you always have the CC girl at the ready, which you don't always. So I think it's a little rough. I think this deck is fine. I think this card is okay, but it just doesn't break as many breakpoints as it may look like. Being able to go to 6 is quite funny at least, but if you go all the way to 6 and your opponent is at 5, it's not much different from you having 10 damage overall. 11 doesn't change the math on that too much. In terms of competitive viability, I think this is a 1-star deck. I don't think she's going to be super competitive by any stretch of the imagination, but I think she's really fun. I really like her. But yeah, it's just a bit of a shame. The power that it gives isn't enough, and just main phase CB1, draw 1 also may not be enough. Wish the deck was a little better, but yeah, that's where I stand on this one. Alright, Common Slop. After School Training Abilita is a 1-star card. I do not care if this card can't be retired, it's bad on board. Willery, CB1, on attacking at grade 3 to gain 5k and a bounce. Why do you want this back in your head? 1-star. Perchet, this is a 15k shield for EB3 if your opponent is swinging for 33,000. You can just run the orders that give you shield. And that is all of Lyrical Monasterio. On first glance, I thought those cards were really bad, and now I don't think that anymore. I think actually those cards are quite strong. If you're a Lyrical player, I think you'll have something there for you that is pretty fun. I'm personally quite happy with the Magnolia cards. I think they're cool. Let's move on to the big set seller, Stoichia. Let's now talk about Zerif Phantom, who is the big headliner of the deck next to Gabwellius. First of all, the grade 0 4-star. Super cute art. I really like it. Lore-wise, I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be Zerif before she became a Phantom unit at all. This is like her in the real world. So I don't like that she is a Phantom. But that's like a lore thing, right? She's cute regardless, but that's my only issue. It's not even really an issue, it's more of a gameplay thing, right? Zerif 1, 4 stars. It is the exact same text as the Barukrea one. Basically, just replace Barukrea with Zerif, and that is pretty good. I'm going to assume you know what the 3 magics are. The one that gives 5k, one draws 1, and one revives 1. These cards are a little less good in Zerif because you can only proc 1 a turn, but even just the filter 3 and then having the right line hit for 13k, followed by draw 1, then having the resurrection effect, that's good enough. Filter 3 is really good in Zerif, obviously. Grade 2 Zerif, 4 stars. I'm really glad it is a flat search. No top 7 shenanigans, it just works. And it lets you play the moon on the same turn as your big order, which is good because you don't want the moon in your hand, you want to get cards to guard with. And yeah, it just gets rid of a lot of the jank that the deck is forced to play. So, good card. We're also going to talk about the Grand Magic you're forced to play, Gilradir. So this card is really good. Orders that can proc from the drop are just one extra game action you can take without draining little to no resource, and these 5Ks do add up, and with enough heals, you should make it to the plus 10k instead of 5k, so this card is really good, and the fact that you can add it off Crimson Moon is just so nice. Very nice that they thought about this in advance. I think it is about the exact same in terms of like card advantage that the other Barocrea order gets you. Basically, it's roughly the same depending if you have sufficient Phantoms on the board, but you normally will, right? Zerif herself is a 3-star card. She's okay. The Phantom skill is very good, and the token skill, which is basically CB1 to get an attack plus a drive, that is also a 10k shield, that is good value, especially if you compare it to Barocrea, whose second drive applies similar things in terms of how much guard you get and how much pressure you apply. I'm knocking a bit off it because even though its Grand Magic spreads the power, the token normally does go to back row center, so I would appreciate something that gives a little more power, like another 5k. Basically, in the deck, if you can find the time to use Stalking, the order that gives 5k, you're in a really good spot. I know some people are running cards that buff the other rear guards. I just don't think it's worth the deck space. But yeah, maybe that's a little greedy as well, because it is currently a bit over balanced slash half-baked. If you're keeping up with the anime and stuff, you know it's because there's a movie coming and they have another Zerif coming as well. So this is obviously set up for that. This is the Levidras before the Levidras Imperio. This could change really rapidly when the next set comes out with Zerif Mirage. But for now, 3 stars. Now this is the token. It just is a normal attacker with plus 10k shield, and at the end of the must retire itself, so you better use it while you can. It's transient. Fontaine. This is a 4-star card. This is probably the card that makes the deck work, honestly. If you've ever played Patriarch, I don't have to tell you how good Merylargle is, and this card is about as good. Hand fixing and milling are both really powerful effects, and if both go off, it's insane. If only once part of the skill goes off, that's also really good. Obviously, you're probably on a really high Phantom count as well, so you should be proccing this pretty often and searching a lot of cards. And not only that, with the amount of Zerifs that attack, you will be about Nils Vega level power. I have to keep comparing this to Barocrea because they're very similar. But yeah, you shouldn't be too far off with this on the board. Lemina, 3 stars. I still don't think this card is very good. I'm putting it at 3 stars because I worry that you may need it for the future Mirage Zerif. And also, I think that it's good now in that I think you have some loose-ish energy in certain builds to play her so that you can search for the moons that you really need to get for so you can up your trigger rate as much as possible, because without it, Zerif just doesn't really have a win condition. You may be able to play it without Lemina entirely, like you could max out on Philanders and stuff to just mill a ton, but you know, don't know if that's as strong as playing it kind of pure. Ridera is fine, 2 stars. EB2 mill 1 is okay. Often it's just going to be EB2 for just the 5k and not the mill 1, which isn't bad, but it's not ideal. If you're always using Ex Lunas to get the benefit of the power when she's placed from drop, you deny using something like Stalking on your token, which I just think raises your break points in a very different way. And I think that makes her opportunity cost a really tough sell. Honestly, you may not even need to run her. So yeah, 2 stars. Cigna, also 2 stars. I think the mill on top 3 is kind of eh. And on mathematically, you don't really get more out of like having Philander in your deck, basically. They're about the same. Especially even with the Phantom plus 10, you'll be 18 to 18. It's a Phantom that does help Fontaine, but I think this card and Philander fight for space if you are playing both. I think this obviously has the benefit of being an extra shield as well, so maybe this is the better card, but I'm just kind of iffy on both. I think either is fine. I just think that if you're playing them, they share a maximum of 6 slots and you just pick which ones you like more. It's fine, it just doesn't really wow me. Student of Pleasure Ralphie, 1 star. I don't care enough about not being able to target the token. I don't know what I'm typing there, just bug on my slide. Haruto is a 13-10. Technically with Gilraduar, you can hit this to like 23k, and that's kind of funny, but don't play this. You should play something with a real skill. So overall, Zerif Phantom is kind of interesting. I rated 2 stars, which is weird because I do kind of evaluate each card pretty highly, but there is just a lot of the jank in the deck that I didn't manage to cover, like the moons, needing to find them. If you run the searches, your deck is awkward in like a different way. It is also a deck that is reliant on checking really well, and as a result, it may be hard to replicate its power over the course of a long event. That's not to say it's impossible. It just did top, I think, Indonesia. It has a team that brought it to the recent Chiho Cup, so it's not impossible. I just think it is less likely than winning with something else. In general, I think the deck is a fair bit behind the current metagame. You know, there's a close analog in Veissrugr, and Veissrugr is a pretty solid performer. However, Beru has more compensation going second, more drive to take advantage of a similar, albeit weaker filter, whereas Zerif is a little faster but also sort of fragile. The 10k from the token is less than the free 15k intercept Veissrugr has as well, so when I think of Veissrugr who is decently playable and scale her down just a little bit, I think this deck will not perform as well. It does have a few things going for it though. The trigger chance really is quite high, and your power isn't as miserable as you may first expect, but there's just a lot of jank to go through to get that all working. Which makes sense because this is very clearly supposed to be set up for the movie. And flavor slash theme slash fun, it's 4 stars. I mean, if you're into this transient theme, this will speak to you. It's a deck that gets thin really fast, so your life slash like your time in the game is literally a fleeting moment. And in that fleeting moment, you will make the most of it. I think this deck will be fine at a rogue slash local level, and for what it's worth, I think she isn't as bad as I'm making her out to be right now. Just check well, you know, just check the triggers. You'll be fine. Now we can talk about her friend, Veissrugr. Veissrugr got 1 card, Sylbios, and she's kind of interesting. Nothing too crazy. Your back row tends to be filled up really heavily with Philanders or Tritas, or your front row tends to be Nilsvegar or like Roaming Prison Dragon or Amiable Fairy. So in this case, this feels a little bit worse than all of that. It does give you some resource efficiency. I just don't know if she exists in Veissrugr as she is. Still, it's not unplayable. She's just not exactly what I thought she would have. You can do the really funny thing with the card that mills off the top to get a 5th attack with this card. That's not very good. Don't do that. But yeah. Interesting card. I just don't really know what the application is just yet. I think you can run like 1 or 2. I think it's fine. Still don't know if it's better than Saphira. Overall, in terms of comp viability, I think Veissrugr is a 3. Veissrugr is already a pretty popular tournament deck. It had a top 8 finish, I believe, in a recent big WGP. So I wouldn't really hold it. As the meta hasn't changed too much aside from Yakuza entering the field, I think this deck can still do it. And on terms of fun, I think having the Overlord in terms of a pretty flower lady is cool. So you'll have fun if you like that. Nanaclear got some pretty cool cards. Did I say cards? I meant card singular. One who arrived at Paradise, Fildea, is a 4-star card. She's insane. It's a Helgvar level improvement for the deck. It searches everything you want. It makes your deck work. It turns Nanaclear from clunky and awkward to just kind of working well. Now, Nanaclear is still a little bit off being a good deck in general. Like, her baseline is kind of weak. She has a pretty poor grind game. But at least the deck functions better. Really good improvement to the deck. In competitive viability, 2 stars. I don't think it's very good. But she now joins the ranks of many decks in the game that can win and are decent, but do get screwed by bad variants. Which is a much better place than where she used to be, where she was just a bad deck. As for fun, if you like Nanaclear, this will be very enjoyable for you. This just makes Nanaclear work, and you'll have a lot of fun calling back the unit and then giving it the crit, and then being able to play all the cool Paradise cards because you have all this resource that you can use now and tap into. Really cool stuff. Okay, Velano got a card too. Vespino. Vespino's kind of weird because originally I thought, well, why would you want this in the front row? You always want a restander there, basically. But if you like kind of do like some napkin math and you kind of, you know, crunch the numbers a little bit, having a 25k attacker, then you have +5 off Velano's own skill with maybe a booster or something, and then you get an order back. This overall will add up to about the same amount of advantage as what a restander would give you. And this one is costless. It's a really strong card. I think it is hard to conceptualize this in a regular Velano deck because you just imagine 2 restanders in the front. But you don't always need to restand stuff, and when you don't, this is a really good option. I like this card a lot. I think I just had to widen my mind for it. Even still, it's a 1-star in comp viability. I think Velano's just a little bit too behind. She still doesn't have a really good win con ever since she lost the Nectar of Sensationalism. So I would be hesitant to bring this to a large event, and if you like it at a rogue level, that's fine, but as decks have gotten more and more powerful, her blitz order strategy hasn't scaled up relative to that, so it's been a lot harder for her. I still think she's a great deal of fun though. It just isn't very fun not having a win condition, so 3 stars there. Here are some of the commons and rares. Sylvan Hornby's Skrill is bad, but he is so adorable. That's his serious face. Get serious. Nin Nin Xingji is a bad card. I don't really know why this is here. It's like a 13k attacker. No, booster, sorry. Yeah, not good. Conditional booster, not great. And Crushing Wave Dragon, Bento's Flipper Dragon. It is a 2 or more guard restrictor for EV3. I really don't see this being particularly good. I don't really know a deck that would want it. Don't play this card. And that's it. That is every card in the set. Overall, I think this set is pretty bad. It has a Moon reprint, which is nice. But a lot of the decks here are kind of mid, nothing super game-changing, except for the Yakuza cards, which are apparently the best decks in the room right now, so get a look out for that. And this deck, this set is so clearly meant to set up the movie booster for Zerif Mirage and whatever Rezael card comes there and whatever Varga card now gets. That's all it is, basically. The impact on the metagame as a result of this set should be quite low. We have kind of a snapshot of what the metagame looks like now, and it's not anything super interesting. Yakuza's doing well, and that's about it. No other deck from this set is doing particularly great, at least not from Planet Cray, so I don't know, it is a little bit of a disappointment to me. I think a lot of the new decks are kind of missing something here and there, but a lot of the old deck support is very strong. Doll's card is crazy, Velino cards are good, Angrbold is good, the Varga card is good, the Blangdmire card is good. It's just the new decks are so middling, it is upsetting. On the bright side, if you're looking to build these, if you don't want to play like a bunch of generic slop, these are kind of cheap. Like, honestly. Maybe Aelquilibra gets a little bit more expensive if you need to run the sporadic Zero Dragon, but I'm sure you can get away without it. If you want to play this casually, I'm sure you can play that. Finally, as of recording this, I am nearing 2,000 subscribers, and I'm very thankful for that. I will maybe make a proper thank you as soon as possible. I'm sorry if throughout the video, like, my voice has gotten a bit more tired or I have gotten softer or something. It's just recording these takes so long, and I talk for like a really, really long time without breaks. So thank you a lot for supporting it. But yeah, and again, sorry that this took so long, but I hope that giving some additional context to the metagame as is has been a bit more helpful as well. Okay, that's it from me. I will see you all when I see you. I hope to be able to make more content soon. That's it from Squaggy. Bye-bye. Thank you to my supporters on Ko-Fi, Lang Long, and Big Ben. Thank you for your support to the Squaggy conglomerate.